Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. There's definitely a trade-off, so I have no makeup on my face today because we are going to be going through my absolute ride or die brushes, which I do keep in a little pad folio right here. That way we can talk about all of my favorites, and it was the trade-off of have dirty brushes in front of me and be full beat, or have no makeup on my face, but actually get to show you guys what my beautiful clean brushes look like. So I've decided to err on the side of no makeup on my face, and we're gonna go into all of the brushes I have here. So I do have about 1,000 brushes, and a lot of them are packed. As you guys know, if you saw my last video, which I'm gonna link right here, I recently relocated. I am now in southern Florida from New York, which is a huge change, but these are the brushes that I felt so strongly about, that they are so important that I have them here with me as opposed to in the box that's getting shipped down to the new place. So if you want to see what my favorite staple ride or die brushes are, make sure to keep on watching, and please don't forget to subscribe because I do upload 3 times a week. I'm thinking soon to be 5 times a week, but don't quote me on that yet. So make sure to subscribe because that is the best way to stay up to date on all the fun stuff I'm posting. So if you want to see my favorite brushes and what I am absolutely loving so much that I have them here with me, stay tuned. All right, and first, because I know I'm going to get a million questions on it, this is the Sephora Pro Toolkit. It is a fold open pad folio, which means that if I fold it and I pull the little string on it, it actually stands upright so that while I'm using them, I can just kind of look at everything right here. I'm gonna kind of work from largest to smallest here, just so you guys can get a feel for what the brushes I chose were. I'm gonna let you know what I like with them, what I like them for, etc. I will try also and link down below all of these brushes, but I don't promise anything because lately I've been so bad and I need to be better, and I will get there. I will. So, first brush here, this is from IT Cosmetics. This is the Heavenly Skin Full Coverage Foundation Brush, number 703. I did use this in my last video, and I mentioned how much I love and hate this brush. I love it because it applies everything beautifully and smooth, and it really does help to put down a nice thin layer of foundation. However, I do hate the white bristles because for any time I'm using white bristles, the second I put anything on it and I start buffing it in, it looks absolutely filthy, at least with like some of the darker hair brushes, like for foundation, that are like black or even just a sponge, it looks less dirty. Plus, I don't love the mirrored handle. However, for laying down that really smooth base, it is beautiful. Designed for liquids, but I am gonna be completely honest. I love swirling this in a powder foundation and really using this to build it up. Just makes everything look flawless and airbrushed and really beautiful. Next, also from IT Cosmetics, this is the Heavenly Luxe Angled Radiance Brush number 10. I have only recently started using this. I don't think you've ever seen it on camera. I use this as a multitasker, so it is nice and small, so if I really want to like stipple in foundation, I can use it for that. I loved the shape originally for patting blush onto the cheeks, or if I really wanted to get a nice thin layer of bronzer, I can pretty much use this for everything and anything, but what I've been loving it the most for is really when I want to not use a sponge and really just buffing out concealer in this area. Not what it's intended for, however, you guys will see there are a lot of brushes that are marketed as one thing and I use them for something completely different, and that's totally okay as long as you like what they're being used for. This is also a really nice shape if you did want to like stipple foundation in. I wouldn't necessarily use it for foundation just because I wouldn't want this on the entire face, but really concentrating in those cheeky areas or really pressing items in. Next, this is a Morphe brush. It is actually from the Jaclyn Hill collection. It is the JH02, the large fluffy bronzer brush. I used this in a recent video and a bunch of people were like, what is that massive fluffy brush? I love using this just for diffusing bronzer around the face. I'll use this to really sculpt the cheeks, or if I'm really like having one of those days and it's clean and it doesn't have bronzer on it, I will swirl this in powder foundation and just kind of quickly buff it everywhere because it's huge. So you get a really nice amount of surface area to really like press things in a little bit more of a less dense form. When you're using a super dense brush, it can often like add way too much powder and things will look heavy and cakey. Sometimes when this brush is clean, what I'll do is before I even do my bronzer, I will like sweep this around my pressed powder just to make sure any residual powder on the face is gone and off here, so then I can go in with my bronzer. I do have some other brushes I like to do that with, and you'll see that. That's pretty much a trend. I have a bunch of brushes that I like to use after powder, but before everything else, just to kind of like take everything down. Next, this brush is the Boxycharm brush. I don't have a name, but this is the second largest size. I love this for applying liquid primers. I used it for foundation once, and I didn't love the way the foundation laid, but it's almost like an R10 with how absolutely like smooth and soft it is, and because it's so densely packed, it really just spreads everything beautifully. I love that it doesn't accentuate any texture or have anything like slide into my pores. It really like slides everything right over and gives you that really beautiful effect on the skin. So if you like a sheerer coverage foundation, you might like this, but I love it for primer. The next brush has seen quite a bit of abuse. So I'm a righty, so you see how the ferrule on this side is nice and smooth? The other side is super dented and banged up from literal years of pressing into my blush, tapping it off on a mirror, and then pressing this on the cheek. I love this for blush. It is the Morphe E4. This is from their Elite Tools line, which was the higher quality. I don't know if it's still their highest quality of brush, but it is a beautiful brush. I do just love because it does almost cup the cheekbone. And when I was using my old blush brush, my blush would be very angular, and I actually noticed, I think it was Nicole Guerrero, every time she puts on blush, she almost gets this like scoop effect on her cheek, which we all have very naturally. The way I was applying blush, I didn't really get that effect. Once I switched to this blush brush, it really just helped to give me that really rounded cheekbone effect. You do want to be careful. My face is a little rounder, so I do like to take a little here, but really focus that blush up here. And this really helps to diffuse that so it doesn't get too harsh. But like, you can tell from all of these little ridges how loved this brush is. So the next two brushes are limited edition brushes that I don't think you can get anymore. They might still be available, and I will link them if they are. These were collaborations with Hakuhodo and Sephora collection. So they are Sephora Pro brushes, but they were made by Hakuhodo, which is a really bougie, really expensive brush line. There were 5 brushes in the set. I was only able to get 2 because I actually picked them up recently. I saw that they put them back on the website. They must have like found a box somewhere with a couple hundred of these, but they are beautiful. The first one is the, I can't even tell you because there are names in Japanese. I don't speak that, but I do have the all over powder brush, which is a teardrop shape. So again, I'll take this with translucent powder and really just lightly graze this across the face. These are probably the softest brushes I've ever used. They are teardropped, so like I can set my eye primer, I can scoop the under eye, or I'll just go in light little circles to add a very soft amount of coverage. Then the other brush is the wedge brush. So you'll notice that it has an angled shape, but it is a fluffy full powder brush. What I'll do with this is I will swirl this in my translucent powder, and then I will press in the center of the face, and then I will actually fan out, and almost in like paintbrush strokes. I know I have no makeup on and I'm like demoing. This is like the absolute like technique I do use. So I will just kind of smooth everything over, then I'll jump back to the other one and just swirl that powder and really just make sure I have a nice thin layer down. Then I go into the giant bronzer brush, bronze up, and kind of get any residual powder. But these two brushes, I'm obsessed. If you see them in the description box down below, you want to get those as soon as humanly possible, because once they're gone, they are gone. This collab, I want to say, was like 2 years ago. So it is definitely a get it while you can kind of brush. Just to make this video even more confusing, the next brush is also a red-handled, because naturally I have to talk about the only 3 red-handled brushes back to back to back. This one is a Smashbox brush. It is the Precise Blush brush. So this is meant if you want to do like targeted highlighter or like really popping something on the apples of the cheeks. I use this as a multitasking powder brush. So I'll use this to add translucent powder down the side of the nose after I do my nose contour just to clean it up. I will use it to set down my eye primer, to sweep baking powder off the under eye, or if I want to add any brightness to the center of the face, because it has almost this thin tip to it where I can really just get down the bridge of the nose and set down any concealer on the face, especially on those days where I want something a little bit more lightweight and we're not full beat the house. So for that, I do like taking this tiny little brush just to swoop everything off and give myself a little bit more of like that precise cleanup. And the last brush on this half, before we jump into the smaller brushes, this is the Morphe R10. This is my current favorite contour brush. What I will do is I will just really focus it right on the cheekbone. Then I will flip it sideways and use the wider side, and I will blend and diffuse it out, just so that the whole thing is not super harsh. I do like it to be a little more diffused. I'll also then kind of work this into the hairline, down the jaw. And if I'm feeling lazy and I don't want to use my nose contouring brush, which I will get into, this one is thin enough that I can take this really quickly just down the bridge of the nose. It does mean I need a little more cleanup, so I will have to go in with like a little more concealer after just to clean it up a bit. But it really does diffuse product beautifully, and it's nice and tight, so I can really get that in, and if I want to blend it out, I can use the width of the brush for that. A lot of times when I'm using a brush, like, you have to figure out how you like it. Most brushes, you'll notice, are like 360 round. The brushes I've been using for face, you'll notice, are all interesting and weird in shape, because I don't want like just a round brush I can go like this on. I want something I can use, flip it, and blend with, or play around with the shape a little bit more, where it's not just depositing that color. So the next brush, this you guys have seen a million times over. This is from Luxie Beauty. It is the 106 lip brush. Comes in a little compact case. I use this brush exclusively for lip gloss, and the reason behind that is, I don't know about you, but I've ruined so many lip glosses by taking the wand, putting it over a lipstick, and mixing that color into the gloss. So this is something I will break out anytime I'm putting lipstick over a solid lip color, just so that I can deposit that color, add the shine, make it beautiful and glossy without ruining my lip gloss. Next, also from the Morphe and Jaclyn Hill collection, this is the JH01. I don't know what this is called, but I use this for packing eyeshadow onto the lid. It just picks up color so beautifully. It is a very densely packed brush, so I really have no issue like really getting tight into that crease, building up color nice and easy. And then what I'll do is I will actually, with the tip of this, take it into the inner corner. I won't use it to highlight the inner corner, but I will take it into this area just to make sure that I have a really nice and precise application. Next, I have the Morphe E36, which is a pretty generic pencil brush, just for blurring and diffusing shadow on the lower lash. I do have another pencil brush in here. This is the Morphe E18. I do go back and forth between the two. I'll take the wide one here, and then I'll take the thinner one in here, or I'll take the thin one just to pop highlight on the inner corner and the brow bone, and I'll use the big one really just to blur and define. If I'm doing that cut crease moment, I'll take the tiny one and I will just trace the crease. Really, the two of these are so multitasking that like there's no wrong way to use them, but I do like to make sure that I have both on hand because I'm the person who will really need all of them. Next, this is also from that Boxycharm collection. I love this for my eye primer. It's meant to be like a concealer brush, but just with the shape of it, I feel like I can pat concealer into the eye, blend it up into the brow bone, pull it around the inner corner, and deposit just enough and remove the rest so that it doesn't get overwhelming or heavy, because I don't like that thick, cakey eyeshadow look, and the only way to prevent that is to not have a thick coat of the base, but I also have very oily lids, so I need the base if I really want to make sure that things are working. Next, from Morphe, the M433, which is a staple. It's very similar to the MAC 217. I will use this to pat color on the outer portion of the eye, or I will use it to buff color into the crease. Super lightweight, super easy. I love how long these bristles are, so if I pull back, I can get a really diffused look, versus if I choke up on the brush, I can deposit a lot more color and build things up a lot faster. While I'm at it, the next two brushes are the Morphe R39, which is basically identical, and the Morphe M456, which is the exact same thing, just about half the size. So if I want something a little bit more precise or a little bit smaller, I would go in with this one instead, but the basic shape on these three brushes is the same. Next is the Morphe M504. This is, I mean, it used to be an eyeshadow brush for me when I wanted something nice and fluffy, but over time this has become the perfect nose contour brush for me, for really just depositing that color on the side of the nose. I will then go in and brighten with that first Smashbox brush on the sides and the front, but this is just the perfect shape for my nose to help to contour it. The next three brushes come from the MakeUp Shack. I picked them up I want to say about 8 months ago, and I've been using them a lot. I am a huge fan. I have like 9 of these brushes, but these are the 3 that I keep going back to. The first is the T46, which I will never use to pick up color. I will always take this brush just to blend what's already down. It is a much softer fiber, so for this, if I was to pick up color, it would be such a diffused look that I would almost have to really load it up with color, and I like bold, over the top, or really colorful looks, or just really intense looks. Even if I'm going in for something neutral, I will typically push to have it be a little bit more dramatic, for lack of a better word. So I'll take this to really soften those edges and blend everything out. For actual application, the 2 brushes I use are the T50, which has this pointed teardrop where I can fit it right into the crease and really blend things when I add that application. Or if I pick up color on the side of the brush, I can actually pat it on the side and use it very similar to those 3 Morphe brushes. Then I have the T11, which is more of a rounded top for that first transition shade, or if I want to build and blend up the eye, I can use something like this, because this one will really just blend things out, whereas I can use this to add different colors and build up that definition. For highlight, I have the M501 from Morphe. I've gone through a few of these, because after about, I want to say a year or 2, they do start to shed, but this is just such a beautiful precision highlight brush. I can take it right from the brow and really just add that beaming, intense highlight right on the cheekbone, just to add any of that definition wherever I feel like I need it. Then I have, which I actually picked this up off of a recommendation from Kathleen Lights. This is the Morphe B71. It is literally a lash comb, which not super important to everybody, but if you're like me and your lashes sometimes need a little extra love, I will take this after I put on my mascara, I will wiggle through my lashes, and I will just use this to separate and lift whatever is out of place, just to make sure that everything is looking nice and perfect. All right, we're getting there. 5 more brushes. Next, from Sigma, this is the small tapered blending brush. It is the E45. I will typically exclusively take this when I want to take a dark brown or a black, and I want to really just define the crease. Like if I've gone in with a really bold shimmer shade and it's gone all the way up and I've blended it over the lid, but I want that like faux cut crease effect, I will, on the flat of the brush, take some of that dark color, blend it on the outer portion of the eye, and really just run it into the teardrop area, just to define that crease and give you that much more defined, almost drag queen style. A lot of times you'll see, like Cher did this. I was watching Burlesque last night, and what she does is every time she does her shadow, you'll notice that it's not super blown out up here, it's very rounded. There will be that little line of definition right here, just to make sure that everything is nice and clean, and it just gives everything a little bit more of a polished look. So I love taking that as a detail brush. Then from Luxie, there's the 201 Brow and Lash. Again, I will use this when I am not using a brow pencil, or if I'm using just a brow gel, just to kind of comb everything in place, make everything look nice and put together. Or, I mean, a lot of people I know will use this for mascara. I prefer the mascara comb personally, but it is all personal preference. Next, from Luxie, there's the Flat Definer 221. This is for when I want to put the mirror's over here, and I'm looking at that so you guys can see from the side. This is what I'll use when I want to pop color directly into the waterline or very tightly to the lower lash, or even if I really just want to run it in between my lashes. This flat style brush is mandatory. For years, I didn't really see the appeal of it, and then I used it once, and everything just looked so much cleaner, and that for me, just game changer. Next, this is the BMX 420 detail brush from Moda Pro. This was in a set that came in a Boxycharm box. I love this for inner corner. It's just when I want that like bold pop of loose color to the inner corner or brow bone, I can just take it right down. I have used this as like a bullet crease or under eye brush. They do work well for that, but I really keep this around just for, sometimes you put that spotlight on the inner corner and you kind of like blend it into the upper and lower lid. It just kind of gives you that blown out eye awake effect. And then I'll go in with the last brush, which is the Morphe M213, and I'll add that pinpoint precise blinding glow right back to the center. I am going to try and link all of the brushes as well as the Padfolio down below, so if you guys are interested in picking up any of these, you will be able to do that down below. If you have any specific questions, again, these are not all of my brushes, not even close, but these are the ones that I chose to pack with me because they are currently the ones I am loving. So if you are interested in, or you have any other questions on any of these brushes or any other recommendations, maybe I don't use a product that you do and you might want to know a brush I would use for that, make sure to let me know down below. I will get back to you as soon as humanly possible. And thank you guys so much. I will see you next time. Bye.